Welcome back to the channel, everyone. In this episode, which is like a part 2 for my custom bow equipment site that I got, I'm putting it on my bow. I'm going to try and do a DIY at home of getting my first, second, third axis all leveled out. So that is what I'm doing today. I'm getting the sight on my bow. So let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to get my sight on the bow. I have a part 1 of this series of just a quick gear review of my CBE Hybrid sight here. This was called the Engage Hybrid. And so now I want to get on the bow, and I want to get it on. I'm not taking it to a bow shop. Another reason I'm not taking it to the bow shop, I live in rural Wyoming. I don't have a bow shop for a few hours away from me. So I want to get it on here, start doing some adjustments with it, start looking at it through my peep, get it adjusted for shooting. All the 3D shoots are coming up, and I'd like to get out there, right? So here it was, right out of the package. There we are. You could actually see here that this is a dovetail mount, and the one screw was on number 4 for me here, which means it's going to be closer into my bow. Just a little bit farther out than my old 5-pin True Glow was, but I'm probably going to end up adjusting it out, but I want to just get it on my bow. So one of the first adjustments that you always hear about bows, first axis, second axis, third axis, right? And that first axis is kind of how level is this sight perpendicular to my bow. So it's running left to right on the bow, and once I get it mounted, I'll mention that again. So here's the bow, here's going to be the sight. How level is this left to right? And so, but what I'm going to do right now is actually just get it on my bow. I have been dying to see this thing on my bow. Looking for my 2 screws, and I think I left them in this box. Here they are. The instructions tell you what size Allen wrenches you need for this, but for the most part, everybody has a set of Allen wrenches. I believe it's that one there, but it's on the instructions. You could look at that. Now, as people talk about getting these things centered on a bow, on that first axis and getting this perfect. So I don't have a bow leveling vise. I don't have a Hamskia, which is the popular brand for leveling your sight as well. So this is kind of a DIY, and I think I'm going to get it really close, and then here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to shoot. I'm going to practice. That's my plan. And I might actually get it into a vise here in actually a few days and take a peek with somebody else that's in town who's going to cut a few arrows for me. So here's the little bolts that come with it right here. I need to put it through these front 2 holes. There's one here and one here. There's only 2 holes on the bow here. That's where they got to go. I'm just putting it on right now. So that's what we're going to do here. Just going to get it onto the bow. You know, another thing, these sights, these bows are so well made engineering wise that when I get this on the bow, I'm expecting my first axis to probably already be pretty darn good. I watched a lot of videos on YouTube with this stuff. Every single one I watch, I'd be a little slightly more confused. My video might turn out to be the same way, but I just hope, you know, you get something out of this. That's how I look at doing most, watching all the other videos as I'm trying to learn things. Just trying to get a little something out of that video that makes sense. So there I got both screws in. You know, I don't tighten one down all the way. If people that know that use these kind of bolts using our hex wrenches, you just don't tighten one down and then go after the next one. You kind of get one snug and you start tightening them down little by little. So there we go. I think I got it. This is kind of cool because this is also the first time I'm seeing the sight on my bow. I have a 2008 Bowtech Allegiance. I love this bow. And I am actually thinking about maybe getting a new one finally next year. But I love this bow. That's why I'm still shooting it. Oh, that is awesome. Awesome looking. There it is. Dovetail mount, check that out. Oops, there went my level. Check that out. That is looking good. That looks so good. And if I'm leveling it up just line of sight here, just looking at it myself, I'm going to say my sights are just left of my bowstring. That'll come into play a little bit later. But there we go. It is on there. I'm not going to worry so much about trying to check this as it being perpendicular to the bow. So left to right, that first axis, this way, right? Left to right. How is it sitting there? It looks really good to me. I said these things are so well made. I'm not too worried about the first axis. It's the second axis, which is I'm going to do a little bit more DIY here to get it close, I hope. So, cool. All right, so for me and for this sight, I'm going to adjust that dovetail right now. As I mentioned, it's in level, or the slot number that says number 4 right here. And there's 4, 3, 2, 1. And I really wanted to get a dovetail sight to move this sight a little farther away from my bow to get that feedback of how's my aim, right? And so that was my goal. Now sometimes there are differences though as you're looking through your peep through this sight, and I'm not changing my peep for this sight, so I'm going to be adjusting it to my peep that I have now. I'm not even sure what size that peep is. That there's like at least 3 different sizes of peeps that I've seen. But what I want as I look through my peep, I want to be able to see the green ring here around the sights. I want just that picture of this green ring through my peep as I'm looking through it here. And so that's what I'm going to be looking for. I think with the being in at the number 4 location closer to the bow right now, I would imagine that what I'm going to see is that my peep will be kind of covering up some of this green. So then I might have to move it out. And so we're going to do that. You're going to see me just kind of pulling it back here and checking that. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do right now though. And it'd be kind of hard. I can't really show that, but I'm going to draw it back and do some looking through my peep sight. Okay, so I'm just going to draw back. Like I said, I'm just going to look through my peep to the sight and see what my sight picture is out there. So got a white background here in my garage. Hopefully that works out all right. Yep, just what I thought. My peep was covering up some of that green on the sight, so I am actually going to move that out. And like I said, I'm adjusting to the size of my peep. That's also why I bought the dovetail though. I want to move it farther away. So let's do that. There's just a little screw there that mounts in there. I'm going to move it up to number 3. Should just kind of slide in place there. There we go. Okay. We'll go to number 2. Now going to number 1. Okay, so I did that going from that slot number 4, which means the sight was closer to the bow, out to a number 1, and that means it was farther away from my bow, and I could definitely tell that's where I'm going to put it. I'm going to have it at number 1. I could see more of my sight picture. My peep happened to be just right around the green ring on the sight. that's what I want. So we are good to go there. That is awesome. I'm going to make sure that my screw there, number one's just a little bit tighter now at this point. That feels good. And there we go. Also, just glancing through it there for the first time, those 0.010 micro pins, was that 10 1,000ths? I think that's right. That was awesome looking. So I really hope I'm going to like those micro pins. Really neat. Okay. There we go. I'm moving on to the second axis now. Okay, so I want to move on to the second axis now. And to understand the second axis here, what you want is these sights to be level to your riser. So right, the riser's over here, sights are going to be a little bit off to the left, but the sights should be in a perfect parallel line with the riser. Nice vertical level there. Of course, they got the bubble levels on the front of the sight, or the back of the sight, whichever way you want to call that. And so that's what we're really looking at. So if I'm looking through this sight through my peep, this should be a nice, straight, vertical axis line compared to my riser. Now here is the tricky part, where people use all those special devices, is that I don't have one of those. But I did see a few ideas that I think I can do, that I'm going to be adjusting that. I'm going to use this level, and I'm going to clamp it down onto my riser here. I wanted it this way, I believe, actually. That's why I couldn't remember what I was doing. So as I mentioned, what I was going to do for my second axis leveling here, I have this leveling bar on my riser, right on a location here on both upper ends of my riser here, that are level. I've clamped this level to it. So when I hold it up, boy, that feels heavier. I can see my bubble level up here and one down here. Now what I'm going to be doing though is just kind of leveling out those bubbles, looking at my bubble on my sight. I'm going to try and see how far off this is. Yeah, it'd be nice if it was in a vise where there's no human error. But if I sat here and I'm going to hold this very still the best that I can, looking at these bubbles and then looking at that bubble on my sight. So here we go. I'm just kind of going real slow adjustments here. That looks pretty good. Okay. So here's what I could see. I had both of these bubbles on my level, sitting them right between the lines, right? My bubble on my sight was off to the left. So that's going to tell me I need to make an adjustment. I believe I'll be turning it right. So when you're doing a second axis adjustment on your sight, you're either going to be clockwise or counterclockwise when you are adjusting that. That's the easiest way to, I think, to say it, because people don't understand. They start saying left and right and forward, blah, blah, blah. Clockwise, counterclockwise. That's how you should be saying it. So simple. For this, where are they? Right here. These two screws right underneath, or right to the, I would say the right side of the pins there, those are the screws that you need to adjust for this. So I'm going to loosen up those two screws I pointed out and go clockwise. Let me double check which way that was going to be. This direction. Okay. Heck, I might just undo these two screws and really just move it left or right to demonstrate here. Okay. So I had to grab another different Allen wrench for the size of these screws here. It wants a 9x64 hex wrench, and that little set didn't have it, so I got another one here. So you want to loosen these. Don't remove them, as the directions say though. There we go. Kind of the first time moving it, so it kind of had to break there. There we go. And now I said clockwise. And as I go through this, I'm just going to make these micro adjustments clockwise, which as I was holding that bow up, it's going to be this way for me. Kind of want to see if it's just going to move. Oh yeah, it moved. So I'm going to go through this. You might see me adjusting that a little bit here, holding it back up, taking a look, and I'm just lining up these levels on my level with the level on the sight as I keep making those adjustments. If I go too far clockwise, the bubble might shift to the right. Right there's the bubble, and then I might have to bring it back counterclockwise and back to the left. The second axis, all bow hunters, everything you read about is the most important axis. This is the one when you are actually hunting, you're going to be looking at this bubble on the back of your pin. That's the one you want level. After you shoot a lot of repetitions, it'll just start coming naturally to you. A lot of times, I don't even think I look at the bubble, and then in the heat of the moment, when you are hunting, you're probably not looking at that bubble. In fact, most of you probably get buck fever or elk fever, whatever it might be, and you don't have time, and you just don't always have time to make sure your bubble's right. Everything's correct, right? That's why you got to practice. So that's what we're going to continue on doing here. So one thing I just got wrong, actually, so that bubble was on the left side, and I said I'm going to go clockwise. And I should have known this. I need to go counterclockwise, right? So right now it's sitting, wish I had something to show you. Here we go. So right now my level is more angled like this, right? So the bubble's up here. How do I get that bubble down? I'm going to, right, to level that out. So that means I need to rotate that housing to the left, or counterclockwise, as I said, not clockwise. So I went a little clockwise, and the bubble went a little farther to the left. So I'm going to adjust it now counterclockwise, bring it back into place. There we go. I feel good about that right there. On that last one, I only actually tightened one screw back up because I was tightening them both, unloosening them both to do that. I had those bubbles almost perfect level there for a second. You know, looked over here at the housing, it's right there. I'm going to tighten that down. So I think this process worked for that. You know, like I said, I'm going to practice and shoot so much that it's going to be all right. So third axis. So this was one that's kind of new to me with this new 3-axis sight. My other sights were only 2-axis, right? So basically a 3rd-axis sight, everybody will say this on their videos and everything you read. This is for those steep angles, and the recommendation is to kind of find a 45-degree angle that you can aim up, down, aim downhill or uphill. So in my experience, I've maybe only had one shot at something, at an animal that was at such a steep incline. This might be important for 3D archers who you go out to those 3D shoots. There might be a lot of fun like that, shooting uphill and downhill. They say to do this that you should do a full draw. So here's what I'm going to do for my 3rd-axis adjustment. I'm looking at my garage door over here, and I'm going to be looking for something where I have a nice line, a vertical line that I know is level up and down. And on my garage door, there's this wall plate with some holes through it all the way down to the floor. Now, for the 3rd axis, you want to draw, and you want to be at about that 45. So I'll be really close to that door. I'm just going to walk over there, check that, and come back and tell you if this worked or not. So I'm going to go check that real quick. All right, so here's what I saw. There was this metal plate running down the middle of my garage door. There's holes all over that metal plate on the garage door, like for different screws or something like that. So I lined up my pins in those holes, and the pins actually fit almost into a few of the holes. There's so many little holes in that metal plate. They actually, almost each pin went to a hole. So I was able to kind of line myself up vertically that way. I looked at the bubble, man, it's right there. It's like right in the middle. I'm not going to say perfect, because as you're holding, you know what it is. You move a little bit, right? It's not perfect. But that looked pretty darn good, and I'm happy with it. Now, if I was to adjust the third axis, if that is something I wanted to do, this is where, the second axis, clockwise, counterclockwise. The screws you would unloosen for the third axis is going to make the housing go left, I would say like that, like a rotunda door, right? It's going to swing this housing this way, or it's going to swing the housing that way. And the screws you would unloosen for this, I'll show it in here, is this screw right here. There, I got it, pencil on it. It's right there. I don't know if you get a good picture of that, and there. So that's right the top and the bottom of our dovetail mount there. Okay, well, I kind of have everything adjusted for the sight. It's on the bow. It looks really sharp, really good. And then one thing I kind of wanted to test, I was going to put this arrow. You can see I got one of my Carbon Express red Maximas in here. And I kind of want to look down my line here from my bowstring through the arrow and try and just compare where are my pins at right now. Comparing, are the sights left of the arrow? Are they to the right of the arrow? Right on the arrow? I've seen some difference of opinions on this about where the pin should be lined up with the string, or just to the right of it, or just to the left of it, I mean, so they're visible. And so what I'm going to do, I think, I just kind of want to see where they're at. So I'm just going to line this up, and I'm going to eyeball this with the string down the arrow and try and see where my sights are there. So keeping the string is pretty much right on my arrow, and my sights are just on the left edge of my string. I mean, I can't see no more of those pins besides just the green, red, and green dot on the left side of my string. I'm telling you what, I'm thinking that's all right. I think that looks pretty good. Not getting too over technical on this here. Going to take a lot of practice now. Some side adjustments. I did move the housing up to the holes in the bottom there. Once I get my 20 and 30 and 40 and start setting that in, maybe I'll see that, I do want to move it just slightly down a little bit. All right, thank you everybody for watching me mount this CBE Engage Hybrid sight onto my bow. I appreciate that. Hit the subscribe button. The next video we're going to be doing is sighting in this sight. So I kind of did a 3-part series here. The first video, just a short review out of the box on the sight. Second one here, mounting it, doing my first, second, third axis adjustments, reviewing that a little bit. Third part, shooting it, getting it sighted in. And this is always a tricky part of watching some videos, and it's kind of hard to understand. So I'm going to try and make it easy, try and make it the KISS method here. We'll keep it simple, stupid. So yeah, come on back. I'd really greatly appreciate that. Thank you very much, and until next time, we'll see you later.